Hello and welcome to our 6 Clicks webinar. Today's subject is going to be mastering security compliance. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off covering some of the common problems that we see companies facing in the world of security compliance. Then I'm going to run through a high-level step-by-step guide on fostering a culture of proactive compliance. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why 6Clicks is the platform to power this journey. Then I'm going to take some time to discuss the growing importance of our governance, risk and compliance, or GRC as I refer to it from here on, partner network, and the channel as a whole. Then I'm going to be passing over to my colleague Ryan, who's going to give us a look at a real-life compliance use case. So I just want to mention as well, along the way, don't hesitate to drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we're going to address them at the end of the session. So you'll have time to have your question answered, and hopefully there's a few of them that come through. Okay, so we're 6Clicks. We're an Aussie GRC platform. We're headquartered out of Melbourne. Having said that, we've got a rapidly growing team up here in Sydney, where I'm based. We've got a rapidly growing team in the USA and the UK most recently as well. So just an introduction to myself. I'm the channel manager here at 6Clicks, and I'm part of the growing Sydney team. I've been with the company for a little over a year, and I've got a background in the SIEM and the cybersecurity space. So moving into GRC was an interesting sort of new look at the security space for me. So I actually work to onboard all of our APAC partners, and they really range from small one-man consultancies to big integrators and really just everyone in between. And not only that, but I sort of work to handhold them through their enablement process and make sure that they've got a polished offering to bring to their customer base at the end of what we call our partner certification process. So with me, I have my esteemed colleague, Ryan Engel, joining us live from the US. So Ryan is our Senior Solutions Delivery Manager, and he's actually the one who drives a lot of those partner certification calls that I mentioned. And I would hazard a guess and say that a lot of you on the call probably recognize his face from these exact sessions. Okay, now before we get into the actual content of this webinar, what we're going to do is to start a poll, if I can figure out how to do it. And what this is just going to make sure is what I'm saying throughout this session is actually aligning with what you're experiencing out there in the real world. So you should have just got a prompt now to respond to our poll. And what we're going to do is we're going to circle back around to the results at the end of the session. So what are the problems? These are the problems that I'm seeing out there on the ground, talking to customers, talking to partners, and I'm working out there with managed clients. I'm working out there with some other clients as well. And probably the number one problem in Australia is addressing manual processes. And yep, I'm talking about spreadsheets, our great enemy here at 6Clicks. Using spreadsheets for compliance, it presents a number of issues. And first and foremost is really just their manual nature. So moving those operations that you were previously doing on a spreadsheet to a GRC platform, that's how you can help templatize and scale what would other be a very time-consuming process. So you can do it once on a spreadsheet, and think about a spreadsheet, right? Anyone can edit it. It can get lost. The person who has the keys to the kingdom and knows how the spreadsheet works might leave the company, might go on leave, might go for holidays for 6 months. And once that happens, there's no central auditable system to use to track where you're at against these different compliance frameworks. So another big question that gets raised is, surely there must be an easier way to comply to multiple standards at once. So I talk to heaps of customers that will say to me, Josh, I'm looking to get compliant with both ISO 27001, for example, and NIST CSF. And you know, as soon as I hear that, I say, well, that's a lot of doubling up of work, and it can make that sort of cross mapping of different compliance frameworks quite a headache for customers. And so this can apply to any of the frameworks that we see out there as well. So that includes, but it's not limited to, SOC 2, DORA, the Essential 8, UK Cyber Essentials. There's a whole list more that we've got in our content library that you can explore. But we're always adding to that. We're always updating these frameworks that we've got in the platform, and we're always adding new ones as we kind of encounter them, because the world of compliance it's very fluid and it's always changing. So holistic GRC visibility is also something that I see all the time. So imagine the work and potential oversight that would go into correlating your assessments with your risk registers, with your risk owners, with your control sets, actions that come off the back of those, and then eventually reporting. Imagine trying to do all that in a spreadsheet, how many things you've got to juggle at once and how many things can potentially get lost. So that's why you really need a holistic GRC platform that encompasses everything and gives you a single pane of glass to manage your posture from. And after all this, you finish working through complying to ISO, for example, finally get it done. And what happens? You've got to go through the exact same process next year. So a lot of the pain points I hear from customers are about, hey, I want to manage this ongoing compliance. Surely it doesn't have to be this hard every time I have to do it, every time I have to recertify with a framework or bring on a new framework. Okay, here's a diagram that I've included from our expert guide on security compliance. Now, I believe I've baked a slide in at the end of this presentation where it'll give you a QR code that'll take you to the document on our website so you can download the full white paper. It's very informative. It's written by our Chief Customer Officer, Heather Bucher, and I actually stole this slide from that document because I thought it was so good. So what it does, it gives you the idea of a typical compliance journey that organizations go through. So we'll start at step one. Usually that's about figuring out where you stand. It might take the form of an initial maturity assessment against the Essential 8, for example. And this step one, either it might be your absolute first foray into the compliance world, or more likely it's a repeated process that you've done time and time again. Okay, let's get in there again. Let's assess. Let's see where we're at, and let's move through this journey. So from there, customers typically move into steps 2 and 3. Once they've identified the risks, they can start to mitigate them and they can address the issues off the back of these posture assessments that they've done. And then they can move in and start to put some controls and policies in place. Now, step 4 is one I just want to highlight on this journey because it comes up all the time in the calls that I'm on as a major pain point for not only customers, but for my partners as well. And that's about reporting. What's the best way to report on your posture? How can you get different levels of granularity from your reporting? So maybe you want high level for the board, for example, and then into the weeds for your team members responsible for the uplift. It's usually super time consuming and hard to template without the aid of a GRC platform. So I always say that a good report won't only show you where you're at, but it's going to provide a roadmap for where you're going. So once you've got reporting sorted, you can then, share the results with your external auditors and you can take some real actions to strengthen your overall cybersecurity posture. So like I said, this is just a bit of a sneak peek into a much larger and more in-depth document. I believe the document itself goes into great detail on each of these steps and what's involved. So it's definitely worth checking out. So where does 6clicks fit into this whole journey? I've talked a lot about the problems. I've talked a lot about the GRC industry as a whole. Let's talk about where we sit. So this slide actually spells out what we go to market with as our 3 market differentiators. Number 1, we've got Haley. So Haley is our GRC AI engine. Haley's been built into the platform from day one, and Haley can automatically cross-map multiple compliance standards at once. For example, you might see that 70% of the questions between ISO 27001 and NIST are the same. Haley can help identify the overlap and save the double handling. So Haley might say, hey, you realize that 70% of the work you put in on this framework can actually be repurposed for this other framework that you're trying to comply to. It saves customers so much time. And Haley is growing every single day. So we've got an entire product team dedicated to new features now. And every time I log into my demo environment, I can see Haley's got some new things that's been put to her that she can do. When I pass it over to a bit of a demo for you for Ryan, you might actually get to see some of these features in action. So another major win for us at 6clicks is our multi-tenancy. So it's what we call our hub and spoke architecture. Whenever you speak to anyone at 6clicks, whenever you go on our website, look at any of our documentation, you're going to see this term hub and spoke bandied around a lot. and it just means multi-tenancy. And we've had that baked into the architecture of our platform. And what that allows is customers to structure their GRC environments according to their own organizational needs without sacrificing overall visibility. So we might see a managed services partner, for example, have themselves as a hub and have each of their clients as separate segregated spokes where that's sort of hard walls between data. And we might see corporations and end customers use this where they might have their corporate office as a hub, then they might have their finance department as a spoke, they might have their IT department as a spoke, they might have their Singapore branch as another spoke. And however they want to structure their GRC needs, they can using hub and spoke. And this sort of cuts both ways because it allows you to centrally manage things from the hub. So you can push content down, you can push assessments down, you can have everybody roll up into consistent risk registers. But then the other way around as well, you can report on what each of the spokes are doing. So you can report on a subset of spokes, you can report on an individual spoke, or you can take comparisons across your entire hub and spoke environment. So the third that we've got here is our vast content library. So we've started to call this Netflix for GRC recently because once you get 6 clicks, you get access to the whole thing. You can browse any of the frameworks, and there's hundreds of them in there. There's standards, regulations, control sets, assessment templates, and all of these. I think I mentioned this earlier, but all of these are constantly getting updated. New ones are coming in. If you see something, if you find a framework that's not in the content library, all you have to do is let us know, and the chances are we can get it in pretty quickly, especially if there's a customer need. So just before I move on, another one of the major strengths of 6clicks that I actually haven't included on this slide is our licensing model. So I'm not going to go into too much detail right now about it, but essentially we license per spoke. And for us, a spoke is always all-inclusive. We're not going to put any restrictions on the amount of users or the amount of content you can access. So once you've got a spoke, you've got a fully powered instance of 6clicks. You've got access to all of our modules, and you've got access to all of our content. Okay, I wouldn't be a very good channel manager if I didn't spruik my partners a little bit. So I just want to quickly mention the importance of our 6clicks partners and what they can bring to the conversation for you. So first and foremost are managed services. So what this does is you can take the compliance headache away and give it to a seasoned professional to handle. And I'm starting to see this term in the channel bandied around a lot, GRC as a service. And I think it's a really good offering for customers who just want to go, look, I need to be compliant to ISO 27001. Can you do it for me? And chances are, if you've got the right partner, they can say, yeah, leave the whole thing with me. Not only can I get you compliant to that framework, I can manage your compliance ongoing from here on out. So moving on to my second point I've got here, sometimes as well, you just don't know what you don't know. So I get that a lot from customers. Stepping into the world of compliance, especially if you're on the smaller end of the scale, even if you're on the bigger end of the scale too, it can seem like a daunting and kind of overwhelming task. So what you can do is just talk to someone at your partner who can provide guidance. With this sort of GRC area, there's definitely not one shoe that fits all in this space. Everyone's compliance requirements are going to be slightly different. So everything is going to be a bespoke conversation. So cost effectiveness is one here that might actually surprise you, but GRC partners and consultancies that I work with are actually set up to scale. They've integrated platforms like 6clicks thoroughly into their offering, and they've templated a lot of the manual work. So all this efficiency means they're actually able to offer out their services at a very competitive price point. So if you haven't already, it's definitely worth having a conversation with your partner about how they can help not only guide you on your compliance journey, but maybe get in there and provide and manage ongoing service. So that's me done for now. I might actually hand over to Ryan now to take you into the demo, and you'll get to have a look at everything that I've spoken about today actually in action with a sneak peek of the 6clicks platform. So over to you, Ryan.
Awesome.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 6clicks demonstration. So today we're going to be going over 3 main topics. The first one is going to be the hub and spoke architecture. Second is going to be our content library. We're going to give you the foundation with all the content that you need in your GRC program. And then third is going to be our AI tool, Haley, but Haley specific to security and compliance use cases. So let's go ahead and jump into things. The first screen that you're going to be looking at here is going to be the hub perspective in that hub and spoke architecture. And the value here for you is that you have the ability to have multi-tenant environments, where at the hub, you're going to be managing content. So we're at that parent level, at the screen that you're looking at here. And you can manage content such as your ISO 27001 assessment, or maybe you're looking at that NIST security authority document. You can house that here. You can have a risk library, you can have issues library. And the idea is that you can manage this content from one page, and then you can push this content to all your different spokes. Now, these spokes are tenants. They're autonomous GRC platforms that they can run independently, where they can house your ISO 27001, you can run that assessment, you can have your own compliance standards, your SOPs, your guidelines, and our project and playbooks. So you have one page, one screen, where you can manage this all from a single level. Our spokes can be grouped into a variety of different ways. So think of it, maybe you want to break things down into enterprise risk, where you'll have operational and technical teams. Or maybe in the cyber risk scenario, where you're going to have teams that are focused on your ISO 27001 program, or maybe one specific for your CMMC. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into one of these spokes. So let's go ahead and check out this demo entity spoke. Okay, now I'm in the demo entity spoke. A few different options that I want to show you. On the very top right here, you're going to have a content library. So 6clicks is going to provide you with every piece of content that you can need. That could range from cybersecurity frameworks, it could range from privacy documents, maybe some specific documents to business continuity or the finance sector. But the real value for here and the big takeaway is that we're going to give you different content types as well. So that could be an assessment, that could be the questionnaire, the evidence gathering piece in that NIST CSF framework that you want to go ahead and send out to get responded to. It could be an authority document. So the standard laws, the regulations, the actual authority body can be housed here. So that's benefit for you, is that you could use 6clicks as a single source of truth for all your documentation. But we also give you cool things like a content packs and control sets. So you can have all your control sets grouped together here, and then you can send them out to individuals on certain frequencies to collect evidence and support the control. We even offer you project and playbooks. So think of this as SOPs and guidelines for your compliance programs. And then report templates. So these are actually going to be Word documented generated reports. So assessment goes out, it gets completed, it answers. You're going to have a report template that's available right away for you. As I scroll down here, you can see that there's many different types of documents. I think the big takeaway for you all is that this is going to be your foundation. 6clicks has a dedicated team. That's their only job is going to be to maintain and manage this content library. But if you have some bespoke content that you wish to bring into the platform, you can reach out to us and we can get it brought into our marketplace. Okay, next is going to be Haley. So throughout the platform, you're going to see our AI tool Haley sprinkled out through all the modules on the left-hand side. Some of it will be pretty obvious, like in our home screen where you can interact with Haley Assist. But specific to the compliance use cases, we're going to go over to our governance section. And in our governance section houses all our control sets. In this example, maybe I want to focus on this acceptable use case control set. Now, under the compliance use cases, you're going to have a few different options here. One of the cool features that I always like to point out is the ability to generate policy descriptions. So we can actually generate a policy description based off this control, or this control set description based off this control and the associated pieces of linked data. So this could be an ISO 27001 provision, it could be some PCI documents. You can do whatever, we go ahead and link that to this general responsibility and we can generate a description for you. The second piece is going to be the mappings portion, and this pretty much relates closely to the security compliance use case that we talked about, that Josh talked about earlier. In this, you see we have a company acceptable use case where we have a controls mapped to a provisions. I can do multiple different provisions if I wanted to. Maybe I just want to focus on an ISO 27001. And what happens here is I have the ability to see if there's any linked children. And what that means is that this control has associated provisions, and a provision is just a clause inside an authority document. It's a statement, it's a subject or topic inside a authority document. And you can see here that these provisions are going to be linked to this general responsibility control. Now, cool thing is that we can actually identify gaps in our policies. We do that by switching out the provisions to controls from source to target. So reversing that. And let's just keep that ISO 27001. So we're basing this off the ISO authority. We're going to remove our control set that we had previously, the acceptable use case. And now we can identify gaps in our policies based off this ISO 27001. And we do that by this little icon here on the far right. This icon can tell us if we have any linked children. Those linked children could be other controls. And you can see here, if I select one of them, I'm getting the details on the right-hand side. Now, cool thing, if we're trying to identify gaps in our policy, you can do that by scrolling down here. You can see that there's no icon on this information security and project management. And since there's no icon, I can go ahead and click on that. I can see that we have no control supporting this provision. And I can do a few different things. I can go ahead to the right-hand side and I can click the plus icon for creating a statement. Or let's just say I want to create an issue or action. Click the plus icon. Now, in creating this issue, I have a few different options. I can create one from scratch, or I can choose from my existing ones, which live in my issues repository. Okay, so that's going to be the second use case for Haley specific to security compliance, but I do have one more that I want to show you. If we go over to the left-hand side and we go to our compliance module, this is the ability to do authority-to-authority mappings. In this example here, I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go to this NIST CSF framework that we talked about earlier. And basically, this is going to be the authority document. So you're going to see that this is just a view stage. If I click on this first provision, it's going to go give me the details, has a function and category on the right-hand side. But we have this other cool tab called mappings. And with mappings, that does is we're able to have a source to a target, and we can actually do many different targets to do this mapping. So if I click on the mappings on the right-hand side, let's just say I click the CMMC. Let's go ahead and map the authority. And what that is, this is going to be a crosswalk of the two frameworks. And in this, we're going to get three main categories. You're going to get a matched, an in both but different, and in source only. If I review this match that I have here at the top, you're going to see that I have a source from this NIST CSF to a target CMMC. And based off the details on both of these, the AI tool Haley is going to give us a percentage matching. 80% above is going to be automatically matched. So these are going to be these 36 provisions that are automatically matched. The in both but different is going to be in the 70s range. These ones are going to require us to manually review before matching. And then the in source only is going to be only in our NIST CSF. Big takeaway for you all is that you can actually do multiple targets. So we can have our NIST CSF, but then we can have multiple targets such as the CMMC, maybe an ISO 27001, maybe a variety of different frameworks that you can map at a single time. And if anybody has done this the old way, this is a significant time saver compared to doing it the old way, which is just having two Excel documents side by side and reviewing each provision line by line. Okay, I'm going to pass things over to Josh. I want to thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Let me just share my screen again. You know what I might do? I might leave it on this screen just for now while we wait for a couple of questions to come through. realized I can't actually see the questions, Ryan, while I'm sharing my screen. So you might be able to see them come through if there are any there.
For sure. Marco's asking, how is Haley licensed?
Yeah, I can take that one, Marco. So basically, Haley is included as part of a spoke. So you get a spoke buying a 6clicks license. You can either buy one spoke or you can buy your own hub and spoke module. And Haley is included with all spokes. So as long as you've got a 6click spoke, you'll get Haley in there as well. So it just ties back to what I mentioned before, where our licensing is pretty simple. Once you get a spoke, you get access to everything.
All right. Any other questions?
Yep, so we just got a question come through now that I've stopped sharing my screen. What's the easiest way to sign up to be a partner? So partner sign up's quite easy as well. All you have to do is basically give me a call. So all partner operations in Australia are eventually routed through me. So even if you go to the website, you'll get directed to me at the end of the day, and we can just have a chat. I can learn a little bit about your company, what it is that you're doing, and we can get you signed on pretty quickly. The partner sign up process at 6clicks is super easy. We sort of pride ourselves on that. So yeah, come on board and we can have a chat. Happy to book a meeting, and off the back of this, if any customers are interested as well, happy to book a call to sort of deep dive into any of those points that we touched on today. Marco says, will the QR code to access 6clicks documentation going to be shared? It is going to be shared. I thought I was sharing my screen, but it turns out I wasn't. So let me just put that back up. There we go, Marco. You should be able to use the QR code now. The only problem is once I've shared my screen, I lose access to the incoming questions.
No new questions right now.
Okay, we'll just give it another couple of minutes or two. And if there's no more questions, we can give everyone a chance to download this document, and then we can close out the session. Hopefully it's been valuable for everyone. And thanks to Ryan for presenting. Came through crystal clear despite coming in from the US. So it's always good. And no technology errors on the webinar side of things apart from in the chair. Okay, I think that should do us, unless there's no more questions that have come in, Ryan.
Nope, no questions.
Beautiful. Well, thanks everyone for coming along, and I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. You should be able to access a recording of this as well afterwards. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.